Hello. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Attacking Third, a CBS Sports soccer podcast. I'm Sandra Herrera, lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports. Joined today, as always, by my colleague and co host Lisa Roman, broadcaster and analyst for CBS Sports. On today's episode, we have a preview episode. We've got a number of games that are kicking off this weekend, despite the possibility of some folks thinking that there's not going to be a ton of action this weekend. That's just simply not true. We've got USWNT action that we have to preview. We've got one NWSL match that we have to preview, and we've got the debut of Copa Angelina. We're very, very excited about it. Before we take a deep dive into everything, quick reminder for all our listeners, you can watch all of our episodes and exclusive interviews on YouTube. Please subscribe to our page to get notified whenever we go live. YouTube.com/attacking third. Lisa, we're back at it, buddy. Me and you.
We sure are, Sandra. I'm so happy to be here doing it with you. Of course, it's so funny you mentioned that it's technically like a bye week in the NWSL because it's an international break and there are plays happening, but there is still action in the NWSL due to a makeup game. The U.S. women's national team is playing, as you mentioned, Copa Angelina. There are a number of things happening, so there's no rest for the weary. Like, we keep going. We have so much to preview, so much to talk about. It's never ending. We've got the Women's Super League starting next week, which is like crazy. It's around the corner. We've been like gearing up for it here, gearing up for it on the CBS side of things in my personal life, so I can get ready to watch these games and do previews. And everyone can watch all of the Women's Super League exclusively on Paramount Plus. It kicks off September 10th is the first game. So like everything is happening all at once. It is quite thrilling. We've got a holiday weekend coming up for everyone. I will find my way to the beach as I usually do. I know people tend to note that of me, that somehow I just make my way to the beach. I'm very close to it. And yes, every chance I get,
Look,
I am there. So hopefully I see some sunshine this weekend, as well as everyone else. You, our listeners, anyone else. I hope you get into the sunshine.
It's September 1st, right? And I feel like when this time of year comes around, there's like two kinds of people. There's like there's the crowd that's like, okay, like last weekend of summer, let's really try to get it in. Let's find the beach. And then there's people who are like, sick. Let's put up the pumpkins and let's
Yes.
go. It's I like to think that like I'm a good mix of like both.
Oh my gosh.
I'm
Yeah.
very excited to like get some, get out there and get some sun. But I'm also, look, I'll put myself on blast. I do have a pumpkin decoration out
I
already.
mean, it's September 1st.
One.
That's totally acceptable. And I apologize for those that are looking to cozy up with a blanket, some like hot cocoa, pumpkins, and like pumpkin scented candles. Yes, do that for sure. But for those that are still searching for the sun because they know that the winter months are coming and we have to hibernate, yeah, that's me. I'm gonna be looking for the sun this weekend.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. Let's dive into some previewing here, right? We've got not just one, but two United States women's national team friendlies to talk about. They're going to be participating, excuse me, in a 2-game series against Nigeria. The first of which will kick off in Kansas City, and then they will meet once more in Washington, D.C. So Saturday, you can find the United States women's national team in Kansas City, Children's Mercy Park. That's going to be kicking off at noon ET. You can watch that action all on Fox. And then Tuesday will be at Audi Field at 6 p.m. local time. You can watch that on ESPN. Lisa, when the initial roster dropped for the training camps for these friendlies, it was, the energy was usual suspects, right? We didn't see a ton of change from the 23 player roster that competed in July for the CONCACAF W Championship, and that included, a player like or players like Sam Coffey, Ashley Hatch. Hatch was someone who came out of that tournament due to an injury. Coffey slotting into her place, but all of these players got brought back in, and initially Emily Sonnet wasn't listed on the roster due to said injury, but that was the 23. We didn't really see a ton of change going from July to August. But some recent news. We've chatted a little bit about it in previous episodes. There's been a couple of different additions or additional players coming into this roster. Both Haley Mace and Savannah DeMello are jumping into to fill in some some certain positions. I mean, well, let's start with that. We first saw that Haley Mace was going to come on in and replace Kelly O'Hara, someone who is also dealing with a lingering hip injury. But then we also got news of Savannah DeMello entering the fold, but coming in place for Trinity Rodman, who has a family commitment. So those are the two newest additions to this roster ahead of these two friendlies.
Yeah, and one thing that we did touch on right when this news broke is that it's not like for like swaps in this one. With Trinity Rodman being swapped in for, or Savannah DeMello, excuse me, being swapped in for Trinity Rodman. That's a midfielder for a forward. Very different types of players. Likewise with Haley Mace, Kelly O'Hara is a defender, which we have seen Mace play in her time, but she's traditionally a midfielder. It likes to be a little bit higher up the pitch, but I imagine that we'll see her slotted into that back line, but not like for like in terms of like how they play and positionally, I don't think. Because of this swap for Savannah DeMello initially, I really like that. It's great to see a player like that get her first international senior team call up into this camp. I hope she gets time, right? I hope she sees minutes. Like, these are good friendlies for some of these younger players or maybe inexperienced players on the roster to get minutes, whether it's someone like a Savannah DeMello or even a Sam Coffey, Taylor Korniak, players that maybe were called into the CONCACAF W Championship in terms of Korniak and Coffey got there towards the end of it. But I want to see them get time. Like, that's the point of this. Yes, the point is to be in training and to compete and to have that level of intensity and understand what it's like to be playing along some of the very best players in the entire world. But in order to really see how that translates from training to the pitch, like, Vlatko Andonovski needs to play a little bit of these players and give them time and give them minutes. I think the same goes for Haley Mace, but I'm also not sure if we'll see her get time. It's like, just because in the back line, he's still trying to really establish players like Emily Fox, Sophia Huerta in that back line. Now without Kelly O'Hara, yeah, maybe that opens things up for Mace, but in terms of moving forward, I'm just not sure how fluid that backline is going to look as we get nearer and nearer to the World Cup. And with a player like Crystal Dunn being back in training, no, she's not competing. Like, she's also slotting into that backline. So it makes the competition for a back four spot that much tighter. And frankly, in the World Cup, I doubt we'll see that much rotation between that back line, maybe an outside back here or there every other game, but it becomes a little bit more of a solidifying spot in that back line. When we talk about the first game versus Nigeria in Kansas City and then the second one in DC, do you think that we'll see a lot of differences between these styles of play? I know this is like really in the gun here, but like styles of play, whether we see the US try to switch things up, if the formation will be very, very similar. I know that at times Vlatko Andonovski has said, no, we're starting the same three. It's going to be Sophia Smith, Mallory Pugh, Alex Morgan up top. We want to see them get consistent minutes, find a rhythm. Like, they're going to be the starters and they're going to play together, like have more of that positional rotation versus just mixing it all up.
No, I hear you 100% where you're going. But before I answer that, I want to touch on DeMello and Melissa's addition to the roster real quick. I know we talked about it on previous episodes, but for anyone who's joining us, live for the first time and sort of hearing the new additions, like, I know that we were like excited to sort of see the fact that these players got called in. So like with Mace, you've got a player who really hasn't had a lot of time in senior level national team camps, period. And the experience that she has is already like stemming back to several years ago. So the last time she was with, the senior national team, it was in 2018 and so the complete previous cycle, and only has about 3 caps next to her name. So I'm with you in what you were saying, where maybe we might not see these two players get time on the pitch, because I don't imagine that these two players coming in is it's sort of being viewed as like this kind of shakeup ahead of the World Cup, with the timeline that they have, anywhere from like 8 to 10 months to sort of build up to 2023. I don't view these two players additions as like, hey, here's another shakeup of the roster before, settling things out for 2023. And Mace coming, she's into this camp, I think, for two very specific reasons. Number one is that she's in really great form right now with the Kansas City Current. She's been playing a lot of great soccer with her club team. And one of these friendlies is going to be in Kansas City. So it's like partially like, hey, she's in really good form. And you know what? We need a replacement. Kelly O'Hara's out with injury. This is very last minute. We're already in Kansas City. Why don't you come on in and join the fold and mix it up in the fray with us? So I'm excited for her inclusion, but I don't imagine that it's going to be a real massive shakeup in that back line, because I'm in 100% agreement with you, Lisa, and that Andronofsky and the coaching staff is trying to settle things out with players like Fox, with players like Sofia Huerta, and the fact that you've got somebody like Crystal Dunn back into the fold, you're also keeping an eye on that player as well, right? Phenomenal athlete. So I would imagine, sort of transitioning this to the question that you asked me, I don't really know if we're going to see some tactical changes. I really do feel that this coaching staff is sort of looking at this next buildup, these next several months leading up to the World Cup, as opportunities to sort of iron out starting 11s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Iron out your game changers, your ideal substitutions, perhaps, and really just make sure you're cementing any type of chemistry that you can, and really start playing some cohesive soccer, which is maybe unfortunate in a certain sense, because I know for you and I, we would maybe like to see games like this be utilized to mix up some things. I mean, if this is the final stretch of preparation for the World Cup, like you should be doing those things. Like maybe Nigeria is going to present some very different challenges for this roster specifically that just won CONCACAF W Championship, right? So they faced a lot of certain different type of game scenarios against all of those CONCACAF nations, right? But they're absolutely going to be facing something different against a team like Nigeria, a team that is very, very smart on the ball, that can turn a game on its head very, very quickly. And so these are going to be challenges, obviously, for your defensive shape. So I'm eager to sort of see what this U.S. women's national team can do with that against the opposition like Nigeria. But I really do think we're going to continue to see this kind of this frontline trio of Pugh, of Smith, of Morgan. I think they're really trying to go. The coaching is maybe giving them instruction on how to continue to build together. I mean, we were just talking about some of the fun banter that we were seeing between them online, for club. It's like, oh no, it's like, hey, it's like, you're scoring, I gotta get on the board too. And it's like, oh no, the two of you are like getting on the board, I gotta keep up too. So we're starting to see it both on and off the pitch, and I just think that that's something that we're going to continue to see in these games against Nigeria.
I agree. I mean, the formation and like defensively structure for this US side, I'm not sure. Someone in our chat asking about Savannah DeMello, is she a 6? She, with Racing Louisville, she plays higher, right? We have Jalen Howell in that 6. I mean, most recently with Louisville, we've seen them actually play more of a box in the midfield.
I think there are lulls of the game with Louisville where DeMello can be kind of like that kind of passing midfielder. But
she's just so good.
Box, it's always, she's moving always around.
Yeah. I mean, she can play that defensive 6, but I don't think she will. When you look at this roster for the U.S., I think he's going to try to put DeMello a little bit higher. You've got players like Sam Coffey coming into this, that she plays the 6. And in college at Penn State, Coffey played much higher. She was more of an attacking midfielder. And now with Portland, we've seen her really grow into that defensive midfield role with Andy Sullivan there as well. That's something that I could see is we talked about this with Lori Lindsay, Allie Wagner, double pivot. Having so both Andy Sullivan and Sam Coffey be in that 6, which is a double pivot, which allows for one to move forward and one to slot back. So there's constantly coverage centrally while also like balancing out your attack and moving players forward. I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see how we roll out.
We haven't really seen it, right? That's like a request. It's like a want. Like we're sort of like putting it out in the air. Like we want to manifest it.
We're getting to that point where we're less than a year out from the World Cup. So like if Vlatko wants to start incorporating new formations, having them transition on the fly. Like, yes, these players are intelligent enough and soccer savvy enough to do that, but you've got to start implementing it in game-like situations now. So I think that this is a bit of a bold statement, but if we're going to see any formational changes for the World Cup, we will see them in these two matches against Nigeria. Otherwise, I don't foresee it happening.
I don't know. Like, I think it might be something more like an in-game adjustment. I don't know if that's going to be like right off the back, we're going to see a starting 11 in a completely new formation. That just doesn't fall in line with what we've seen from this coaching staff. I think we're going to see that typical, 4-3-3. We're going to see, a similar front line that we saw at times in the build up to the CONCACAF qualifiers and then during the CONCACAF qualifiers. And perhaps there will be situational moments during the match that perhaps we will, see some different things, and I think that's more me kind of maybe like hoping for that because again, I'm with you. I think that Nigeria is an excellent side to go up against post CONCACAF championship and, be able to say, hey, we actually might be able to try out some different unique game scenarios here. And I really do hope we get to see it. I think especially, going from that first game to that second game, Lisa, maybe they might divvy it up. Maybe they want to have a certain tactical plan against Nigeria in, Saturday's game in Kansas City, versus Tuesday's game in Washington, DC. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm hopeful. Like fingers crossed,
Yeah.
right? I think that's what we're doing right now.
We will see. It'll be really interesting. I think we'll learn a lot as fans and analysts of the United States women's national team. If bringing in all of these different players, if it's for training experience or if it's to be implemented in gameplay, and if any changes will happen.
All right, I'm gonna put us both on the spot here. We've got two new additions to this roster. We know the 23 who are going in. Is we maybe have an idea of players who we're going to see over the course of these two matches. So I don't know. Do we want to do like an attacking third, like starting 11 that we would like to see in this game, or are there players that you want to see get more time in these games, Lisa?
I mean, sure, we can run through a starting 11, but players I want to see get more time. Aubrey Kingsbury in goal.
Okay.
I want to see. She's been called in so many times and hasn't gotten like enough opportunities and enough chances. And so for me, that's something that I would really like to see her get minutes, frankly. In the back line, I think that between like a Girma and a Cook, I think Girma has stood out more in NWSL play and been way more consistent, been way more effective along the back line. So I would really like to see him give Girma that availability and that opportunity to play and play consistently. Yeah. But those are really the big players that I'm like, you've got to give them time. You've got to give them opportunity. I mean, some of the players being called in, I'm not so sure about. Like, I think we'll see Sanchez get time. Like, I hope Sam Coffey gets time. But if she doesn't, like, I'm not going to be that surprised. But like, I think Taylor Korniak will get time. I know we talked about Haley Mason being in Kansas City. I could see him playing her because they are in Kansas City. Yeah. And then when they're in DC, like, she doesn't see the field at all. She's not even dressed. Like, I don't know how that works. So, but I could see because, like, she's playing there, like, there'll be a big crowd for her that he gives her time in the Kansas City match.
Yeah, I mean, if she dresses and it's a certain scoreline and there's a certain scenario that there may be that they don't need an extra look at, I wouldn't be too surprised by that. But I'm with you on Girma. I want to see Girma specifically against a very good attacking side like Nigeria. I really do want to see this back line kind of tested in that capacity. So I would imagine that we, are going to, continue to see, continued development between, Fox and Huerta at those outside back positions when it comes to that kind of, rotating center back duo. There, it's a pair of friendlies, right? So we're obviously going to see some type of combination of Cook, Girma, in Sauerbrunn along that duo of games in that pairing. So, but I think to start, I think I would really like to see Girma within that as well. I hear you about Kingsbury. I do wonder if kind of post NWSL regular season, um if a different third goalkeeper is called in to some of those, to some later camps, quite frankly, just because of the lack of time that she's gotten, in both in the build up to the qualifiers and then coming out of the qualifiers as well. And Casey Murphy appears to sort of be back in form for sure with club. So I don't know if she's going to be getting a start in either of these games once more. Yeah, here's a fun one. Maybe I think with the forward line, the forward trio, right? We're talking about Pugh, Smith, Morgan. But let me ask you this. Let's put our takes out on this. Based on current form, Megan Rapinoe's coming off of an outstanding August in NWSL with All Rain. Does Megan Rapinoe get starts in either of these games, or do you think she's still going to continue to sort of play this sort of off the bench role?
Megan Rapinoe has been outstanding for OL Reign in the NWSL for club play. That is undeniable. I think it more so just solidifies why she's being called into these camps. I don't think Rapinoe will start. I think that Rapinoe understands, Lacko understands, players like Pugh, Smith understand that this is a transition phase for that front line. And Megan Rapinoe is there to push the intensity in training, to be that incredible leader, to show them what can happen. I think she'll get time coming in off the bench and make a massive impact, as we've seen her do. Even if she gets like less than 10 touches on the ball, she'll still make an incredible impact with 5 touches on the ball. So I don't think she'll start, not because of her play. I mean, her play, she deserves to start and play 90, but I think it's more about getting other players opportunities, finding a rhythm with some of these players that he wants to see moving forward, be that stable front line. And maybe it becomes someone like Smith, Pugh, and Hatch in that midfield or in that front line, because Hatch is also coming off of a brace with Washington Spirit. Like, she's a player that didn't get as much time in the CONCACAF W Championship due to that back injury that she had. She had to end up going home earlier. So could that happen? But nah, I don't think Rapinoe will start, but not because she doesn't deserve it, but just because that's not the direction of the team.
Yeah, I hear you. I think with all the discussion and everything that they've talked about, saying the conversations that they've had with the coaching staff and Rapinoe and sort of her role moving forward, that despite the really hot form that she's in right now, that maybe that might not necessarily mean that it's going to equal a start in these matches. But with 6 forwards going into this, you would imagine that the substitutions are in place. So it'll probably be obviously Hatch for Morgan or Rapinoe in Purse for somebody like a Pugh or a Smith. But we'll see what happens. We'll have a lot of answers, I think, by that first game in Kansas City, and by the second game in DC, maybe we'll see a little bit of different energy around the game. But there's also a little bit of a historical component that's going to be occurring with this second match in DC, when the United States women's national team plays this second friendly against Nigeria in DC at Audi Field. U.S. Soccer, the USWNT Players Association, and the U.S. Men's National Team Players Association will officially sign a historic new collective bargaining agreement on the field as part of sort of the post-game ceremonies.
Yes, this is huge. I mean, when this was announced about the collective bargaining agreement being solidified, and then the fact that it gets to be signed post-game live at Audi Field. This is the second CBA signing that we've seen this year live, right? The first one in the NWSL at Angel City. That was huge. The commissioner there and everything. And with this one, there will be players there from both the men's side and then, of course, the women's side. So USSF President Cindy Parlow Cone, she will sign it, as well as the U.S. Women's National Team Players Association officers, which is Becky Sauerbrunn, Crystal Dunn, Sam Ewis, and Becca Rue, as well as some of the men's players representatives. So they'll all be there signing this. I mean, this is just massive for the U.S. It's the first time that a federation in the world of soccer has agreed to equal World Cup prize money. And that is just massive heading into a men's World Cup year and then a women's World Cup, because the men's World Cup is literally around the corner. So the fact that this is happening is a huge achievement for not only the U.S. soccer, the women's team, the men's team, but honestly the world of football. And it's happening on September 6th, which is Women's Equality Day. This date was picked to commemorate the 1920 certification of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. So they didn't just pick this date and say, we'll sign this. They made it a little bit more historical, have a little bit more meaning on it as they sign this historic CBA.
It's going to be a big, big day. 2022, the year of the collective bargaining agreement. You love to see it. We've got more to get through in this episode. We've got games to preview in NWSL, and we're going to do that right after we take a quick break.
The UEFA Champions League. 9 months of heart-stopping, hold-your-breath acceleration. While Mbappe shines in the city of lights, Benzema's racking up the hat tricks, and the Reds want more magic in Liverpool. This ain't amateur hour. This is the best of the best of the best. This is the UEFA Champions League. Stream every match live on Paramount+.
All right, quick reminder before we get into everything. The FA Women's Super League is officially on Paramount+. First game will be kicking off on September 10th, so please stay tuned for upcoming Attacking Third episodes all about the WSL. We're hyped about it. We got a lot coming through the pipeline for you all in terms of WSL content, but let's stick to NWSL for now. There is a series of games that is going to be taking place this weekend. So while it is an international window and the United States women's national team is on duty, and there are a ton of NWSL players repping their national teams right now, New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC, and North Carolina Courage are actually going to be playing a makeup day, match. It's going to be their match day 3 game that's finally going to be played in September here. It was originally scheduled to be played on May 14th, but unfortunately, the game was postponed due to COVID-19 protocols. It was, I believe, set to be the home opener for Gotham FC in this. So a little bit of different energy in this one. Lisa, you've got a game that was supposed to be played very early in the season, and now you've got 2 teams that are going to be going head-to-head in September. We're talking final stretch of the regular season. Who do you got in this one?
So this is so interesting, kind of when you look at the landscape of the league and how this is unfolding and how now this game is being played. And when you look at form of some of these teams, I'm not sure if it is better or worse to be played now, honestly, because when you look at, I mean, this is an international window. So Gotham is without Midge Purse, Christine Ewis, Ifeoma Onumonu, who plays for Nigeria. And meanwhile, North Carolina, they're without a number of players. I mean, Casey Murphy is away with the United States national team. So the balance between these two sides playing at this point in the season, I mean, we can't dwell on it too much because it happened. And now we're here, and now these teams have to deal with it. We have to deal with it as analysts. Gotham's truly on the struggle bus, 7 straight winless for them. They're struggling. They've brought in Hugh Menzies, who has said that the morale for this club and this team is changed. It's a complete 180. They're ready to go. He's trying up different formations. We've seen Ali Krieger higher up into the midfield to try to combat some of their opponents' midfield pressure, playing alongside McCall Zerboni. I think Paige Monahan has had a tremendous season with Gotham. She's really stepped up for a team that has struggled with scoring, struggled to find the back of the net. And maybe the pressure is on for players like Onumonu, Purse, Mewis even. So that relieves some of the pressure from someone like a Monahan who doesn't feel that and then can go out there, play her game, be confident in what Monahan's able to do on the pitch, and she's able to pick up goals. Meanwhile, North Carolina, they're just cruising right now. It's really impressive to watch this team and what they've been able to do. Now, they are coming off of a loss, the 3-2 loss to Kansas City, but in their last 6 games, North Carolina has scored at least 3 goals. And that is literally insane. They had 2 back-to-back 4-goal games, one 4-goal game in the mix of all of that against Chicago Red Stars. But North Carolina can score. They can find the back of the net, but it's their defensive efforts that are truly struggling. And now without Casey Murphy, I am a little bit nervous as to what can happen. I think if you're a Gotham side, you're looking at this North Carolina roster and their most recent form and saying, we just got to shoot. We got to put opportunities on. When you think back to Gotham's last game against Angel City, they had opportunities. They were creating chances. But Angel City's defense got very lucky. Didi Hadicic had a fantastic game scoring or saving so many different goals. So if you're Gotham, you're saying, let's just come out, do the same thing we did last time, be a little bit more clinical on our finishes and see what we can do. Meanwhile, North Carolina, they can score. They can score these goals. We saw a quiet game from Diana Ordonez last match to see kind of how she transitions into this one and if she's playing and what she's doing there. Caroline coming off of a brace. This one, it proves to be a bit more interesting than just what meets the eye when you initially look at this, how it's a COVID makeup game in the middle of an international break. I haven't given my pick yet. I want to hear your analysis first on this one. What are your thoughts on this match, Sandra?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm feeling everything that you sort of laid out, already. I think the biggest thing for me is that knowing that these two teams are just in completely different areas right now in their season. I think on paper, you're looking at two teams and you see, hey, there are two bottom table teams who are going to be playing a makeup match at that on Sunday, right? And I think you have to look a little bit outside the lines of that paper a bit. You're looking at, who's going to be available in these games. There's an international window right now. We're doing this live for our listeners, so we don't have the availability reports in terms of the personnel who will be available or unavailable in this match due to either injury or international data. We do know for Gotham, what are they going to look like and what are they going to present to a North Carolina side that has sort of been trying to make a little bit of noise down this final stretch of the season. They're going to be without Midge Purse. They're going to be without Christy Mewis. These are two massive players to be without at this point in the season. But again, this is a game that they didn't anticipate that they would be unavailable in. So I do have some concern. I think there's you've got Ordonez who's nursing a shoulder injury right now. We saw her kind of come out of the pitch, as a precaution a couple weeks ago. But I think there's potential for a game like this to maybe perhaps get out of control a little bit, maybe for lack of better phrasing. So it's just I do wonder if a team like North Carolina, who are going to come out in this game with an entirely different sense of urgency compared to a team like Gotham, who's going to be missing a couple key players who have, what is it at this point now, 12 losses on the season. And it's just, they're being led by interim head coach Hugh Menzies, and it's just kind of they're in a different phase of their season versus North Carolina. So I just want everybody to come out of this game happy and healthy, and to be able to continue on with their regular season, But I do think that Carolina might be able to come out here and go ahead and get all 3 points. So I'm in terms of my pick, I'm going with North Carolina just because of their recent form. And even if this game, I think even if this game does come down to midfields or defensive shape, I just think that North Carolina is starting to figure things out very, very late in the season. But with players like Carson Pickett, being able to get higher into the attack and try to spearhead and facilitate things, or somebody like Denise O'Sullivan being able to dictate those things. I just think that they've got a current run of form, even coming off of a loss. They've got a current run of form that I think you look at that team and you say, maybe there's enough here to go ahead and pick up a win. But with so many players missing, Lisa, I did go back and forth and wonder if this was going to be a draw. I did.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at that because Denise O'Sullivan is with Ireland. She's playing in the World Cup right now. So like a lot of the players are not there for international break, and the results of this match matter. So it becomes a balance of, okay, this is a game where we should have off. We need to rest some players, but also this match definitely matters moving forward, because if you look at the standings right now, Gotham is at the bottom. They've got 12 points. This is a little rough for them. They're 14 points off of that playoff line where Chicago sits at 26 points. Meanwhile, North Carolina, they're at 16 right now. If they win, they get 19 points. That just closes the gap. They won't change positioning. They'll stay in 9th place, North Carolina, but that'll close the gap between these bottom 4 teams and that top 4 teams or the bottom 4 teams and then the top teams. And North Carolina can almost solidify themselves as being part of that top bunch, leaving Racing Louisville, Washington, and Gotham at 14, 13, 12 points at the bottom. It just creates separation. So for North Carolina, this game matters a ton. They need to pick up points in this one. I agree. I'm going to go with North Carolina in this one, but if it's a draw, we won't be surprised. We'll come back and we'll laugh about it. But I think North Carolina needs to win this, and I hope they can score some goals.
We believe in Brittany Ratcliffe, right? For North Carolina. Yeah, I'm eager to see that. I think
I believe in Brittany Ratcliffe. She's a great player. It's so great.
I just think that this is a match day 3 game that's being played in September. It's just a very different. It's going to have a much different energy, than if it would have been played, back in May. So I just think that, I'm going with a pick. I'm making a pick because there's just one, actual NWSL regular season match that's in play. But I am going against my gut here. I am saying that maybe I kind of wanted to go with a draw. So we'll see how the teams come out and face up against each other and what type of urgency they play with in this match. But for people who are looking for additional NWSL action, just look to the West Coast perhaps as well, because it's here. Copa Angelina is here. It's an exciting time in NWSL. It's an exciting time in LA. Copa Angelina, for folks who don't remember, when the news dropped of this, we were really, really hyped about it because it was just like a new partnership that was announced between Angel City and the Mexican women's national team. So this partnership was announced where they're going to have these friendlies over the next couple of years. And it's just cool to finally see how at one point this was just announced, right? And I feel like we were just doing an Attacking Third episode about it, but now it's here. And we're all just super excited to sort of see how this is going to come to light, what it's going to look like as we see a senior level Mexican women's national team going up against an NWSL side that is in the midst of a playoff push, quite frankly. So I'm excited to see this finally get underway and to sort of see the crowd that this might attract, because part of it was part of this kind of coming together was, for Angel City, was bringing together this Angel City Football Club and then the Mexican women's national team to sort of ensure that you're representing two different, two different cultures, but at the same time, kind of fuse all that together, because of the large, Mexican community that there is in Los Angeles. So I'm also curious to sort of see in this one, who we actually might see in action in this one, because it wasn't too long ago, Lisa, where we saw Angel City take on Tigres Femenil in a bit of an exhibition game.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited for this Copa Angelina. I think that it's huge. I mean, we've talked to some of the people at Angel City, whether they're in their front office or Angela Hucles, and about this and like how important it is for this club and how this was something that they wanted to do. They knew they wanted to do it as soon as LA was going to get a women's soccer team, that this needed to happen in order to kind of highlight the national team and the growth of women's soccer, and something that Angel City has been a key starter in continuing the growth of women's football. And then highlighting that the Mexican culture in LA, like you mentioned, is huge through entertainment, community outreach, the competition on the pitch. This is massive, and it comes at a fantastic time during this international break. I know that the bank is going to be rocking for this one. They're doing a fan fest before. If you're in Los Angeles, head out to their fan fest. I know Angel City goes all out, but this is a huge matchup for these two sides, and for really the start of NWSL playing against an international team.
Yeah, for sure. And something cool, like different, like little components, like little cool things that you try to look at to sort of get hyped about the game. If people missed it, the Mexican Football Federation went ahead and announced the debut alongside Adidas of the official like kind of secondary kit for Team Mexico for the upcoming year. These some of these jerseys have already been featured in U17 matches for the U17 women's side, and they will be one of the official kits for the upcoming World Cup in Qatar for the men's team as well. So I'm a little curious if we're gonna get to see the debut of these kits for the Mexican senior women's national team. But I love this kit, all the detailing in between it. It's you got the white kit with all of the red kind of stitching across it, and the design of it, and with the new crest as well. So it's pretty cool to sort of see. And I we'll find out. Like, I know Angel City usually wears their black away kits at home. So I think like if the Mexican women's national team go ahead and take the pitch in these kits, I think it'll be like, not just two cool teams going head to head on the soccer field, but it'd also be like maybe a little bit of a kit clash as well. I think it'll be like two very cool kits also like going head to head in this one as well. So hopefully we'll get to see that in action during this game. And quite frankly, like hopefully we'll also get a chance to potentially see some familiar names, right? For folks who made, like, if anybody was watching the CONCACAF W Championship on Paramount Plus that took place in July, there's likely like to be similar names that you saw playing during that competition, right? So players that have collegiate ties to the United States, right? There's their goalkeeper who got called up. We saw in Emily, and so we saw Maria Sanchez, get the call up as well to this squad. And I know that the Spirit also announced that Rodriguez is going to be participating in this as well. So I'm eager to see if like we're gonna continue to see maybe a little bit more like NWSL crossover a little bit, like seeing Angel City go up against some players who have already played against them, in NWSL competitions. So, and that's not to say that, you shouldn't, pay attention to maybe some of the other players, that maybe you saw during the CONCACAF qualifiers. Like I mentioned, Emily Alvarado was a goalkeeper that we saw a lot during that time, but players who, again, maybe just went up against this Angel City side, players who were representing for Tigres, who are also on this Mexican national team. So some of the players who were playing for Tigres against Angel City might also feature Yeah, they might also feature in this game as well. So, you've got players like Nancy Antonio, Greta Espinosa, Cristina Ferral, so it's like there might be some familiarity that comes into play here when they're going up against Angel City. And like a thing that happens when you sort of have that familiarity with players on the pitch, like it leads to, these kind of highly competitive games, so I'm hyped for this one, but yeah, there's already a ton of NWSL crossover, like I said. So you got your Maria Sanchez, Jimena Lopez for All Rain, got Diana Ordonez, obviously with the run that she's been on with the Courage, she's going to be featuring with them as well. So again, like I'm really curious to sort of see some of these more recent and familiar names on the Mexican women's national team go up against Angel City. I'm really excited for this game. I wish we were going, Lisa, and be able to sort of see some things in between and be like, hey, find these individual matchups as well, and hopefully it's a good game.
So I want to put you on the spot here.
Yeah.
Who do you have winning this one, Angel City or Mexico?
Well, you know what? If we're going off of the previous match, we saw a lot of rotation that was utilized with Angel City going up against Tigres Femenil in that exhibition game, and it was a real opportunity for Freya Coombe and the coaching staff essentially to get a ton of the the bench out on the pitch. We saw a lot of depth players that hadn't typically been utilized over the course of this regular season for Angel City get time against Tigres Femenil, and I would imagine that there might be some combination of that. But I think because of some of that familiarity, the fact that they might have faced some of these players already going up against Tigres Femenil, the fact that there's going to be the potential for those individual battles on the pitch against essentially, yes, a senior Mexican women's side, but the fact that there are a ton of players who could be getting the start for Mexico's national team who have also played against Angel City. Like if you have a starting lineup for Mexico that has, Jimena Lopez in it, Diana Ordonez, a Maria Sanchez in this one, the potential for there to be somebody like a Karina Rodriguez alongside the Spirit. Like if we see these players coming in and getting starts or even featuring within them, it could lead to a very, it could lead to a surprise result. So I would really love for Mexico to come out here and get a win. Quite frankly, I think it will be a really great experience for Angel City, but I also think it would raise the level of profile for that team as well. I mean, they have goals in that program that they're trying to obtain. They're coming off of another cycle in which they did not make the World Cup, right? So this next stretch of years is looking ahead. Like they don't have a choice. They have to look ahead and sort of see what's on the horizon for them. And that includes like the build up to something like a 2027, but that also includes like integrating new players in and maybe rotating players out. I don't know if we're going to see that with the remainder of this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happens in the future, perhaps in the build up to that. But we see that, I think, even in this roster, we just had an interview with Scarlet Camberos. This is a very young player with Club America who said one of her goals was to, go play in Liga MX Femenil and get looked at by the Mexican national team because she wants to represent Mexico's crest. And she got called in back into this camp after missing out with an ankle injury, so I think we're already starting to see that a little bit. They're getting different players in, newer players in to get different looks at them. And, they're still in the process of trying to find a lead head coach, and technical directors for this team. That's something that's ongoing. It's something that's on their radar. They're saying, hey, it's going to be a different look for the coaching staff, for this team. So I'm excited. If you're out in the West Coast, if you're out in LA, please, get your tickets and hopefully you get treated to a fun match in this one for sure.
I know. I agree. I'm excited for this one. Should be huge matchup between these sides and just fun. Like it's good to have international football to watch.
Yeah, we love it. We love it here. We love it here at Attacking Third, and we love you all for joining us whenever we go live. So thanks everybody for listening to us chat all about U.S. Women's National Team, NWSL action, Mexican Women's National Team, Copa Angelina. Thanks so much for joining us whenever we go live. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Attacking Third. A quick programming note: we're going to be back next week to recap all of the matches that take place. Everybody enjoy your holiday weekend. We're going to try to do that as well. So make sure you're subscribed so that you know when we go live and give you all of the recaps. Okay. For Sandra Herrera and Lisa Roman, this was Attacking Third.